Good morning. Today we are working on our next lesson in our first unit, CO2. So it's a course objective again. This one is I can write rational numbers as both fractions and decimals. So we talked about those rational numbers yesterday. Remember, it's positive, it's negative, it's fractions and decimals that end or repeat. So in addition to knowing the categories of our number system that I just reviewed with us, it's important to be able to write values various ways. It equals the same amount, but they look different. For example, sometimes a value is better understood as a decimal. $2.75, so 2.75, instead of 11/4 of a dollar. That doesn't even make sense, right? We don't look at dollars and cents as a fraction. We look at it as a decimal. Sometimes we need that fraction. So if we need 3/8 of a cup of sugar, that's a whole lot easier for us than saying we need 0.375 cups of sugar. Because our measuring cups don't come in decimals, they come in fractions. So different situations require us to use decimals or fractions, and we need to be able to convert back and forth. What does it mean to convert? Well, when we convert, convert means to write a value a different way. Go back and forth between the decimal and the fraction. That's converting. Sometimes we're converting measurements from inches to feet. That's converting, to write it in a different way. So integers to fractions and decimals. An integer defined as a non-fraction and non-decimal, remember if it's an integer you can't have those, can still be written as a fraction and decimal by writing the integer as a numerator over a denominator of 1. So if we have an integer of 7, to write it as a fraction, it would be 7/1. Does it still equal 7? How many times can I take the 1 away from the 7? 7 times. So it still is the same value of 7. So 7 equals 7/1. And to put that integer into a decimal, we would have a 0 in that place. Same thing with negatives, because negative numbers can be integers. So if I have a -9, that's the same as saying negative 9/1, which is the same as negative 9.0. So we can, even though an integer technically can't be a fraction or a decimal, we can see it written that way. Now let's look at going from a fraction to a decimal. So write an equivalent fraction with a denominator of 100. The numerator is the decimal. Let's look at what that means. I'm going to scroll up so it'll be easier for us to see. So let's say we have a fraction of 4/5. We want to go to a decimal. So what's my first step? What does it say we want to convert it to? Michael? We want that denominator to be 100. How do I go from 5 to 100? I multiply it by 20. So I'm going to multiply by 20. whatever I do to the bottom, I have to do to the top. So what is my numerator going to be, Christina? 80, because 4 times 20 gives me 80. Now it says the numerator is the decimal. So I'm going to look at this and say, huh, I have an 80 as a numerator. That is the same as putting that 80 right after my decimal. 80 hundredths is the same as 80 hundredths. So I can go from a fraction, 100 on the bottom, so I have to change my numerator. When I change my denominator, I change my numerator, and then I take that numerator and put it after the decimal. So when we say this fraction, this one we would say is 4/5. This one is 80 hundredths, and 80 hundredths is a decimal, right? So we see the 80 going out to that hundredths place. So what if I'm given something like 1 1/4? What do I have to do to convert that to a decimal? What's my first step going to be, Robbie?
Make it a fraction.
I need to take that mixed number, turn it into an improper fraction. What would 1 1/4 be as an improper fraction, Beckett? 5/4, because remember I take my denominator, multiply by the numerator, or multiply by the whole number. 4 times 1 is 4. And then I add that numerator, 4 plus 1 equals 5/4. Okay, so what's my next step going to be? Vivi? Why would I multiply it by 25, Vivi? Say it a little louder, that air conditioner unit's loud for me. 4 times 25 gives me that 100 for a denominator. So Graham, you should be writing this down. Everything I write on the board, I should see you writing. Okay? So whatever that is, let me just do that way. So if I have 4 times 25 is 100, what is my numerator going to be? Hadley? I have to do 5 times 25, which is 125. So I have 125 hundredths. How is that going to look as a decimal? What do you think, LJ? Tell me exactly what to write. So because 125 is greater than 100, we know there's 1 in the ones place. There's a hole, and what was left over was that 25. So I could convert this improper fraction to a mixed number. 125 over 100 is 1 and 25 hundredths. So that 1 whole goes into my ones place. And now my numerator is my decimal. Does that make sense? Show me if that sounds how we're feeling. Okay, some of us are kind of, yeah, pretty much there, but not quite all the way. We're going to keep going through some examples, so we'll come back to it. So we have our next one. Decimal to fraction. So this time we're given a decimal and we're going to go backwards. So we're going to write the decimal out to the hundredths place, write the decimal as a numerator of a fraction with a denominator of 100, and our final step is always with fractions, simplify, simplify, simplify. Okay. So let's see what that looks like. So let's say we have a decimal of 3600ths. Okay, I need to recalibrate, and I'm not gonna take the time to do that right now, so it looks a little messy sometimes. So 5/3600ths, 0.36. What's my first step? Robbie?
You get it into a fraction.
Okay, so how do I do that? You need to know, Ruby? Remember, we want that denominator of 100. That 6 is in the hundredths place, so we know that that is the same thing. Hundredths place to 100. Remember, we had taken that numerator and put it as our decimal. Now we're going to go backwards and put that decimal as our numerator. So 36 hundredths. Am I done? Some people shake their head yes, and now I'm hearing no's. Why am I not done? I have my denominator of 100. I'm in the hundredths place. That's what I'm supposed to do. Drea? Simplify, simplify, simplify. What can I divide out of 36 that I can divide out of 100? David?
2.
I divided 2 out. 36 divided by 2 is 18. 100 divided by 2 is 50. Yay, I'm done.
No.
But I simplified.
Mine's still done by 4.
Can I simplify by 2? I sure can. But what do I have to do? I have to look, can I simplify it again? David, what should I simplify it by now?
Again by 2.
Again by 2. 18 divided by 2 is 9. 50 divided by 2 is 25. Am I done now?
Yeah.
I can't go any smaller. Now I'm done. Now, Beckett said, well, you should have simplified it by 4 the first time. Sometimes we look at our fractions and we can find that greatest common factor that we can divide out all at once. And we can say, oh, the biggest number I can divide out is a 4. 36 divided by 4 is 9. 100 divided by 4 is 25. I can't get any simpler. But look at that, it equals the same thing. Was it fine for David to divide it by 2 and then divide it by 2? Sure. He looked at it and said, oh, they're both even numbers. I know I can divide it 2 on. And then, oh, they're both even numbers. I know I can divide it 2. Sometimes we just simplify it several times over. Sometimes we get lucky and we find that greatest common factor. Only have to simplify it that one time. They're both the same answer. Do I care which way you go about it? No. I care that you're getting it to the answer. That you're simplifying it as low as you can go. That's the important part. So it's okay if we simplify, simplify, simplify. And it's okay if we just simplify it that one time and we're done. Either way, it's both 9/25. All right, what if our decimal is 0.4, 4/10? How do I make that into a fraction? Robbie?
You make it 40
Oh, remember when I said we want that denominator to be 100, so we want to go out to that hundredths place. How do I make that out to the hundredths place? Robbie?
You add a 0.
I have to put a 0 in that empty place. Now I'm going to follow the exact same steps. And I'm going to say, okay, that's the same as 40 over 100. Oh, am I done?
No.
What do I have to do, Beckett?
Simplify by 20.
Oh, Robbie's really thinking ahead. He's saying 40 hundredths. I'm going to try to find that greatest common factor that I can divide out. So if I look at 40 hundredths, we say divide it right by 20 right from the start because I just want to divide one time. I don't want to have to simplify, simplify, simplify. I just want to simplify. So sometimes we can find that right away. 40 divided by 20 is what, Beckett? And 100 divided by 20 is 5. So sometimes we're able to find it right away. Now, every year, I always have somebody say, well, Miss Gambino, I know 0.4 equals 4/10. And then I simplify that and divide a 2 out, and I get 2/5. Would that be okay?
Yes.
Same answer. Okay. So sometimes if we have really good number sense and we understand that, we can do that. Some of us are a lot more comfortable just saying, hey, this is all new. It's the beginning of pre-algebra. I just want to make sure I'm doing it the right way. I'm going to go out to that 100th place. I'm going to put it over 100. And I'm going to go through my steps. That's awesome. Some of us will say, ooh, I know that 0.4 is 4/10, so that's in the 10 spot, so I'm going to put a 10 on that, and I'm going to go about it this way. We're going to get the same answer. Any questions on this? All right. So, you will not be able to use a calculator on this section of the test. So when it comes time to the test, we will not have calculators out for the first sheet that we need, because it's going to give us the answer. I don't want to know that you know how to use a calculator. I want to know that you understand the numbers that's it all. Okay. But on our homework, you can use your calculator to check your answers, to make sure that you're doing it correctly, because it's homework. So you have to write it all out and show your work. You have to show the steps. But then you can use that calculator to say, okay, that fraction bar, when I have 3/5, my fraction bar is actually means divide. So 3/5 is 3 divided by 5. So I can check to see if I got the correct decimal by using my calculator. So let's see if that works. If I do my steps, I want to go from 3/5 to a decimal. How did I go from 5 to 100? Multiplied it by 20. 3 times 20 is 60. So then that gives me 0.60. Claire, you got your calculator out. If you do 3 divided by 5, what do you get for an answer? 0.6. Did I do my math correctly? Yeah. So I can use my calculator to check it, but we're not just going to use it to find the answer, because on the test, we're not using our calculator to find the answer. So when we do our work, I want to see all of the steps present. So you have to show the steps, or you will not get credit for doing the homework. Right? So let's look at our second page. So it says, convert integers to a fraction and decimal, decimals to a fraction, fractions to a decimal. So it depends on what they give you as to what you have to show, what you're converting. And then the key thing, show your work. Okay. And to go from an integer to a decimal and fraction, there's not a whole lot of work to show, right? 18 as a fraction would be what? David?
18 over 1.
18 as a decimal would be what? Michael?
18 close? 18.0.
Oh, 18.0. So that, you really don't have any work to show. You just showed it as a fraction, you showed it as a decimal. But when we come to the 3/4, now we need to convert, if it's a fraction, you need to convert it to a decimal. So how do I convert 3/4 to a decimal? What work am I going to show, Luke?
So
So what fraction do I get?
Denominator is 100.
Yep.
Plus 75.
Whenever I'm working with those 25s, I always just think about quarters. 3/4, I know 75 cents. So what is my decimal going to be then?
0.75.
0.75. So this is my final answer, but I need to see your steps. I need to see how you got that. Because you're gonna miss out on what we're doing at the bottom. Okay, so that was our integer, that was our fraction. Let's look at our decimal right here. So let's look at this decimal, 0.34. How do I do from a decimal to a fraction? Bradley? So 0.34 is 34 hundredths, so I write that out as my fraction, 34 over 100. Am I done, Hadley? What do I have to do? Yeah, I have to reduce it. Simplify, simplify, simplify. What can I divide out of 34 and 100? I cannot divide 34 by 4. They are both even numbers, so I know I can divide them both by 2. 34 divided by 2 is 17. 100 divided by 2 is 50. I cannot get any simpler than that. 17 is a prime number. So my final answer is 17/50th. Any questions on how we're doing this section? So you just have to look at what is the given and then decide what work we have to show. Our bottom section. Match each fraction to its decimal value. So it's only going to have one match. So you're only using 3/10 one time, goes over here to which one. So you have to do the converting. What does it match to? So 3/10 as a fraction matches to 3/10 as the decimal. So you just draw the line connecting the ones that match to each other. Everything's only used one time. Any questions on the bottom? Any questions at all on our homework? David?
Question on the bottom.
Yes.
On the right side, could something be connected to the left side? Or is it two different things?
So this is one set over here. This is a whole different set over here.
Okay.
Okay, so this column connects to this column. Any other questions? All right, so that first page that we had was just our lesson page. There's no homework to be done on that first page. So we just have this second page as our homework. We have time to work on that now. We have about 8 minutes before we're gonna get ready for lunch. Okay, so work on this. Do not rush. Show your work. If you finish, you can work on that practice work for Retake Friday. If you have practice work done, put it in the blue tray. I'm going to be correcting them after school today. If you don't have any practice work or you already have it turned in, you can work on that math packet. I know I have not made the video yet. To try to get that done by Friday so we can know how to do everything. If you have a question, if it's a simple answer for me to give on the math packet, I will. Or there might be something I say, ooh, we're going to wait for me to make the video because it's a little bit more depth. If you are watching this video at home, I hope you are well and I hope to see you soon. Don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel. Have a wonderful day.